Hello my friends, here I will be fairing the hull. To get to this point in the build, there's a number of steps that I didn't include. One item that I did was I attached a grind on both the stern and the bow, and that leaves a real nice transition from the strips to the leading and trailing edge. The other thing that I did was I glued an accent strip at the parting line, and this is a piece of maple which should give a white subtle transition between the sassafras and the maple. It should give a white color where the sassafras is going to leave a goldish color when the finish is put on it. After the final strips were attached to the hull and the glue had ample time for drying, then I removed the glue that was dried that eased out between the joints. I used a paint scraper to do this. When all the glue in the seams were scraped down, it left the hull constructed with a bunch of little flat planes on the exterior from each of the flat strips, especially where it goes around the curvature on the side of the hull. To start the fairing, what I did then was took a hand plane and planed all the high spots on the wood strips. Hand planing will remove a lot of material and leave minimum amount of sanding dust. Well, there will be no sanding dust. It'll just leave a lot of wood curls or chips. After the hand planing, the next thing to do would be take a sanding, either the sanding bar like I'm using now, or an orbital. I used an orbital sander with 80 grit paper and roughed in the hull, roughed the fairing in. The area at the bow and the stern has some concave grooves running up the hull. This can't be sanded easily with a flat surface, with the flat board. The orbital, being a rounded disc, is able to use the leading edge and conform to that concave in the hull. When you think you have sanded enough, make a close inspection of the hull. Look for any additional high spots that you might have missed and touch those up. Then what you want to do is take sanding dust and mix it with epoxy and make it thick enough that it's like a wood putty. Then putty all the cracks that you're going to find or any holes that is left in there. Scrape down any excess, because having a buildup on the hull is going to be hard to remove later. Leave this putty to set overnight to harden. Then the next day you want to take a scraper, either a paint scraper or a cabinet scraper, then scrape down any sign of epoxy that would be on the hull. If you don't do this and you hit that patch with your sanding disc, it'll gum up the sanding disc and you'll just be going through too many discs of paper. At this point in the video, you can see how I'm sanding. I'm following the way the water will be going in that concave area, and this is the stern end. So I'm sanding in that concave with a flat sanding tool, and I'm following how the water is going to ride through that area. This sanding board that I'm using, it's an inexpensive board that's used for automotive fairing when you're doing putty work. The board has a real thin layer of foam on the face of it, and it allows a little bit of flexing that allows the paper to ride in that concave groove area. The sanding that I'm doing is the final fairing of the hull. I not only visually inspect as I'm sanding, I'll be feeling with the board to feel where it makes a bump when I'm moving the board. That would be a high spot. So I keep feeling with the board, and then occasionally I'll be running my hand across the hull, feeling for the smoothness and for any indentations or high spots. While sanding, I pay extra attention to the curvature on the side of the hull. This is where the boards are making sharp, abrupt changes as it's being laid up, as the strips are glued on. And it's the harder area to fair, to make it round. When I finish this sanding, I'm using an 80 grit paper. What I'll do is I'll brush the kayak hull down, and then I'll go over the entire kayak with my orbital sander with 120 grit paper on it. After the sanding with the orbital and the 120 grit paper, what I'll do next is take a large sponge with water and wet the entire hull down. Doing this will allow you to get an idea of what the final coloring is going to look like. But what you're aiming to do is look for ghost images of glue. Any glue that had squeezed out and you didn't get sanded down completely is going to resist the water being absorbed into the wood, and the color at the glue won't change with as the wood color is changing from the water. This is showing you where you need to do additional sanding. If you don't get rid of that ghost image of the glue at this point, when you put your final finish, which would be the glass with the epoxy, you're going to still see that glue. That's going to show up, and it'll be a flaw. That will be a difficult problem to take care of after you have glass on it. So don't overlook this step of wetting the hull down and searching for imperfections of glue that had seeped out when you were gluing up or didn't sand the area down enough. This fairing process has taken me 2 complete days to do, and tomorrow I'll do the inspection of the hull with the water. Hopefully the fairing will be finished. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.